I was humiliated by a man from Walmart, but knowing his director, I came to his office in the morning. When he saw me, he turned pale. Tonight, I went to my local Walmart for a quick grocery run to restock on some essentials. I expected it to be a swift in-and-out trip, taking no more than 15 minutes. Unfortunately, it turned out to be anything but quick due to an incident at the checkout. When I got to the self-checkout line, I found myself behind an older man, a boomer, who seemed determined to make a scene. He was with his wife, and they were loudly arguing about something unclear. Their cart was loaded with various items, including several large bottles of alcohol. As the man approached the alcohol, he froze and started looking around for an associate, presumably to scan his ID. However, he hadn't actually scanned any of the bottles yet. Instead, he just locked eyes on a young woman who was busy at the monitor for the self-checkout registers in the next aisle. After about 45 seconds of inactivity, he shouted in a condescending tone, "Excuse me," followed by, "Can you come and scan my fucking ID, please?" His aggressive tactic worked. The employee immediately turned around and walked over. The man stood there with his arms crossed, looking inconvenienced, and still hadn't scanned a single bottle of alcohol. As the young woman approached, the boomer began berating her. "It makes me real sick to see workers just standing around when they're on the clock doing nothing when people like me have schedules to keep. Can you do your fucking job, please, and scan my ID?" "Excuse me?" she replied. "You fucking heard me. Get off your goddamn phone and scan my card so I can get the hell out of here." At this point, I noticed a few things about this individual. He was wearing a mechanic's uniform from a local tire company whose owner I know personally. He even had his name tag on, Eric. This familiarity gave me a way to address him if needed. Eventually, Eric rudely demanded again if the cashier was going to scan his ID. She firmly responded, "No, I don't think so. Not after how you've treated me. You can talk with my manager." Good for her. She then called for a manager over her walkie-talkie and walked briskly towards the customer service counter at the front of the store. Eric started loudly complaining that this was all nonsense and claimed he was just exercising his First Amendment rights. At this point, I decided to step in and give my unsolicited opinion to offer him some perspective on his behavior. "Excuse me, but the First Amendment doesn't protect you from looking like a douchebag to random strangers in Walmart when you treat other people like shit," I said. Eric wheeled around and locked eyes with me. "What did you just say to me?" I smirked and replied, "Oh, hard of hearing, are we? I'm pretty sure you heard what I said." He visibly shook on the spot. "This isn't any of your fucking business, so butt out." "I disagree," I continued. "When I see someone acting like an asshole for no good reason, I make it a point to speak up. You seem to think that by stating you have a First Amendment right means you can say whatever the hell you want without consequence, but that isn't how it works, sir. The First Amendment protects you from government overreach for speaking your mind, but it doesn't protect you from the consequences you face from others for your words or your opinions. That's beside the point. I'm sick and fucking tired of these minorities doing nothing and getting a paycheck for it," he responded loudly, seemingly unaware that quite a few people were now staring. And just like that, racism had entered the conversation. The manager arrived, and Eric immediately launched into a tirade, claiming that he had scanned his alcohol and that the associate had been extremely rude to him, refusing to serve him. He even alleged that she told him he wouldn't get help because he was white. At this point, I felt compelled to interject again. "Ma'am, that is not what happened. This gentleman didn't even scan any of his alcohol and immediately started shouting at your employee, just for the sake of being upset. He was rude, unpleasant, and even made unnecessary racial comments." Eric wheeled around to face me again, yelling, "Shut the fuck up and mind your business!" He then resumed his rant about lazy workers and his First Amendment rights to speak his mind. "You know, this is very unfair of you," I started again. "You've put that poor girl in an unwinnable situation. Now that you've raised this untrue complaint, her manager is going to have words with her even though she hasn't done anything wrong. Does that sound fair to you, Eric?" Eric looked puzzled, clearly not realizing he was still in uniform. "How would you feel if someone came into your place of business and told John a bunch of bullshit about how you were treating them unfairly when you knew perfectly well that it was a lie?" Or even better, how would your boss react if he knew you were acting like this while still in uniform with his place of business plastered all over your chest? When he heard me mention the name of his boss, he froze. Yes, Eric, I know John very well, and I think I might be paying him a visit tomorrow. That is, unless you decide to apologize to that girl for being a lying prick instead. Eric suddenly became very rushed and anxious. He muttered something about people not minding their own business, to which I responded in a sarcastic SpongeBob voice, "I'm just expressing my First Amendment rights." He scanned one of the bottles and had the manager scan his ID. His wife started making threats about me not showing up at his office tomorrow, but I ignored her. I was focused on Eric as he bagged his items. Eventually, he got everything into his basket and marched out without apologizing to the manager or the employee. As he left, he gave me a hearty, "Go fuck yourself, asshole," and flipped me off. I proceeded to scan my groceries and pay for my merchandise, smiling from ear to ear. Afterwards, I made it a point to speak with the manager and the employee in the customer service center. As expected, the manager was discussing the incident with the employee, who thanked me for speaking up. Having worked retail before, I know what it's like dealing with assholes like Eric. There was no way I was going to let a boomer bully an employee and then weasel his way into a victim role with management. Not on my watch. So now my next move is to show up at Eric's tire shop tomorrow. I really hope he's there and that he's the opener. I'm going to walk in and just smile at him before asking to see his manager. Then I'll weave the nicest story about how he treated the employees at Walmart, compelling me to stop in and tell his boss that he has a real winner on his hands and that I'm now a customer for life. Maybe then Eric will get the message. Maybe he'll realize that I could have started a whole shitstorm for him but chose not to because, unlike him, I'm not a fucking dickhead. Update, 1 day later. Before we begin, let me start by saying wow. When I went to bed last night, my post had around 350 upvotes and a steady stream of interactions. I was doing my best to respond to the comments as they came in. Then, when I woke up this morning, I was astonished to find over 1,500 messages in my inbox, and the thread had skyrocketed in upvotes overnight. I'm so sorry if I didn't respond to you. It became an impossible task to keep up with everyone. I also want to specifically address a small group of you, the ones who were certain that my story was fabricated. Some of the reasons you gave were quite revealing. My favorite was the comment that said something like, "This is too well written to be true." What a world we live in where clear writing automatically casts doubt on the accuracy of a recounting of events. I'll admit that it read more like a novel than anything else, but that's just how I narrate. Anyway, on to the update. I arrived at the tire shop just a little after 8 a.m. There was one gentleman at the counter being assisted by one of the associates. I took a look around and peeked into the back office area where John typically worked when he wasn't in a bay. John wasn't there. As I walked towards the sitting area, I asked an employee passing by if he knew when John would be in today. He told me John usually arrives a bit before 9 a.m. when he works mornings, so I should just wait for a bit. I didn't have anything pressing to attend to today, so I did just that. As I moved towards a seat, I glanced outside at the working bays and noticed my old buddy Eric walking towards the main building. When he saw me, his head drooped, and I could visibly see him mutter "fuck" under his breath. He paused for a second, shook his head, and continued walking towards the building. When he came inside, he set a packet, presumably a customer order, on the counter and said something to the clerk at the register. He hesitated for a moment before walking over to where I was sitting. As he approached, I greeted him with, "Morning, Eric," and smiled. He just stood over me for a moment before taking a chair across the coffee table from me. Wondering what his next move was. Honestly, I didn't expect what happened next. Eric opened with, "I owe you an apology." Color me shocked. At this point, a billion thoughts ran through my head. Mostly, for some reason, the prominent thoughts were all the calls for bloodshed that popped up in the last thread. All the claims that boomers can never learn and only understand bullying were thrown at me like mortars every step of the way. You all were bloodthirsty last night and still were this morning, convinced that this gentleman was a drunkard asshat. But do drunk asshats apologize after doing something wrong? Back to the story. He continued, saying that he didn't just owe me an apology, but also the cashier he yelled at last night. He mentioned that he had actually planned on returning to Walmart on his lunch break to see if she was working so he could apologize to her as well. In his words, "I've been dealing with a lot of personal shit in my life recently, including the loss of a loved one, and I took that out on you all last night, and it wasn't right." Right about this time is when I noticed that John had arrived. He walked in through the door behind where Eric and I were sitting and proceeded directly into the back area I had checked earlier. We'll get to that part later. Honestly, I was at a loss for what to do. On one hand, yes, this guy had been a raging jerk to that girl last night, but his apology felt genuine. I mentioned several times in the first thread that I didn't want to react hastily, and this is exactly why. Had I gone in there and thrown a colossal fit, creating a huge scene, I don't know if this would have ended the same way. Anyway, I don't wish to grandstand further. The guy apologized, so I stood up, shook his hand, and simply told him, "Be good to people for no reason, man. Kindness is free and isn't a sign of weakness." We chatted a bit and discovered that Eric and I have a distant connection neither of us really knew about. For personal reasons, I won't disclose what or how we knew each other. Then John came out of the back office. He recognized me, gave me a hug, and asked what I was there for. I basically told him that I ran into Eric at the store last night and wanted to check in on him and get an update on an issue he was having there. That's when John said, "Yeah, Eric, I need to talk to you about that. I had a lady call me about something that happened at Walmart you were involved in." Oh, shit. I'm guessing either the manager or the cashier called John after what happened last night. It seems the ball isn't in my court any longer. Eric gave a deep sigh and told John, "I was a shithead to a cashier last night because I was in a hurry. I wasn't thinking and it wasn't right. I'm gonna make it right at lunchtime. I hope she's working today." John then said something I didn't catch, and he and Eric walked into the back room. That's it. End of story. I took a scrap from a notebook, jotted down my proof, snapped a photo, then jumped in my car and left. I apologize if this left anyone feeling unfulfilled. I certainly hope this brings you guys whatever closure you were looking for. I'm certain some of you aren't going to be happy with how this turned out, given how many pitchforks I saw last night. But after all this, all I can say is to not be so hasty when jumping to conclusions. People are people, y'all. You can't really be sure what someone is going through before you jump to judgment. Some folks don't know how to ask for forgiveness or take responsibility for their actions, but some folks can. I'm glad this resolved itself the way it did. John knows what happened and knows that it happened with his business on full display, so he can now choose how he reacts with that information. I got the closure I needed, and I hope the cashier does too. Time will tell in that regard, I suppose. Be good to each other. Keep being kind. It's genuinely a real-life superpower. The universe rewards kindness in kind. Okay, next story. I lost my wife 3 years ago. I've started dating again, and my new girlfriend wants to visit my late wife's grave. I am one of many who lost someone in that dreadful year of 2020. She was my world, and we had our future all planned out. She wanted to have children by 2021, and then suddenly, she was gone. I felt like I had lost all sense of purpose. After an agonizing year, I decided to move away. Not too far, but not too close either. I felt like I couldn't breathe in that town anymore. Still, every Saturday I returned to visit her resting place. For about 2 years, I just functioned. I wasn't depressed or anything like that. I just went through the motions of life. Then, last year, I met someone we'll call Ada. We started talking and spending time together. She can be a bit aloof with people she doesn't know well, but I was pleasantly surprised to discover how sweet and kind she is beneath the surface. She gave me something to look forward to again. Ada likes to do most of the talking, which suits me fine because I often don't know what to say. She knows everything about my late wife, and this knowledge didn't discourage her. She understands that I'm in therapy and still mourning, but she has never left me alone. I asked her to tell me if anything I do or say makes her feel uncomfortable or like she's not a priority. She assured me that so far I'm doing nothing of the sort. Ada is aware of my Saturday morning visits to the grave, and she has never objected to them. However, today she expressed a desire to meet her, meaning she wants to accompany me on one of my visits to the grave. I feel conflicted about this. On one hand, I respect and feel touched by her wish. On the other hand, it feels strange for a man to take his new girlfriend to the grave of his late wife. How should I approach this? Is it too soon? Should I ask her to wait a bit longer? Relevant comments. Commenter. Your late wife would likely want you to move forward and continue living your life. I believe it's a wonderful idea to take your girlfriend to visit your wife's grave. Your girlfriend's intention is not to disrespect her, rather she wants to honor her memory and integrate her presence into your relationship. From what you've shared, your girlfriend sounds like a wonderful person. You are no longer married, and it has been a couple of years since your loss. Embrace the fact that your girlfriend respects and honors both you and your late wife. She may very well be your future wife, as she clearly has many admirable qualities. Oop. Yes, we had many conversations about how we both wanted the other to find happiness if one of us were to pass away. I never truly believed it would actually come to pass. Ada has always been incredibly respectful and tactful whenever I talk about her or show her things and pictures. Oop clarifies when he visits his wife. To clarify, I don't engage in any dramatic gestures such as speaking to her grave or shedding tears when I visit. Instead, I focus on maintaining the site by keeping it clean, watering the flowers and replacing any that have wilted, inspecting the headstone for signs of wear and tear, and cleaning the glass that holds her picture. OOP adds another comment with details. There are some additional details I didn't include in the original post. Ada and I first met last April, and we instantly connected. Although we are not currently living together, we split our time between each other's places. However, we are planning to move in together permanently in the near future. Ada has been very clear that she wants our relationship to grow into something long-term, and she is comfortable with having a long engagement before eventually getting married. She is straightforward and honest about her desires and needs, yet she remains patient and understanding. I deeply love this woman and am committed to making her happy. More on Ada. Ada is a very headstrong and determined person, but in this particular aspect, I find in her a patience and kindness that seem almost infinite. She doesn't get upset when I'm feeling a bit sad or when I'm thinking about my late wife. She understands completely. When we first started sleeping in the same bed, I shared with her that it felt a little weird and also somewhat like I was cheating on my late wife. Once again, there was no anger or upset on her part. She simply said that she would probably feel the same way if she were in my shoes. Update. I discussed this matter with my therapist who, given her understanding of Ada and Ada's consistent behavior regarding such sensitive topics, believes that bringing Ada to visit my wife's grave will likely be a positive experience. I conveyed to Ada that if she was inclined, I would be more than happy to take her with me this Saturday. Ada was pleased to hear this. Although she usually works on Saturday mornings, she mentioned that she would take the morning off for me. I'm experiencing a complex emotion that I can't quite define regarding this upcoming visit, but I am optimistic that it will be a beneficial experience. Update. We began dating in April 2023. As our relationship progressed and she recognized my serious intentions and commitment, her doubts about me dissipated. She believes we are made of the same stuff, both loyal, committed, and hardworking individuals, and she envisions a future with me, which I also desire. We are currently searching for a new place to share, and I'm looking for the perfect ring to propose to her. One of my biggest concerns is ensuring that I do not take advantage of her goodwill, even unintentionally. Her kindness and patience seem nearly infinite, but I have expressed to her that I don't want our relationship to revolve solely around my past, as it wouldn't be fair to her. She reassured me that she does not feel taken advantage of, and that I do plenty to make her feel loved and appreciated for who she is. At the same time, she acknowledges that my past is a part of me that she is willing to accept in order to be with me. To my surprise, everyone approves of our relationship. My parents, Ada's parents, and even my late wife's mother. We have not faced any backlash. Regarding an update, I discussed with my therapist the idea of bringing Ada to visit my wife's grave. Based on what she knows about Ada and her consistent behavior regarding such sensitive matters, my therapist believes that this visit will likely be a positive experience. I informed Ada that if she was inclined, I would be glad to take her with me this Saturday. She was happy to hear this and mentioned that although she usually works on Saturday mornings, she would take the morning off for me. However, unexpected circumstances arose. I have to cover for a sick coworker tomorrow, which means I will be occupied all morning and a significant part of the afternoon. When such situations occur, I usually visit the grave either on Friday or Sunday. I decided to go this afternoon. We are in Europe, so it was evening here, and asked Ada if she wanted to come along. She readily agreed. We didn't talk much during the drive. Upon arrival, we made our way to my wife's tombstone, and I simply said, "Well, here she is." I fetched water for the flowers and began my usual routine while Ada crouched down as if examining the tombstone. She then helped me with the caretaking tasks, removing dead leaves and flowers and cleaning the picture and the light. Afterward, we took a walk around the cemetery, which might sound unusual, but many cemeteries here double as parks, and then sat outside for a smoke before driving back. We talked a bit, and Ada, who's generally quite stoic, became a little emotional. She expressed that she was happy I had led her into what is, for me, a particularly intimate and sacred place. However, she was also shaken because, after all the conversations we had about my late wife, she had subconsciously come to think of her as someone she would want to meet and be friends with. Seeing the grave reminded and solidified the fact that this amazing woman is truly gone. It was a bit of a jolt for me, too, seeing Ada tear up, since she is the most stoic woman I've ever met. This moment made me realize even more how rare and precious Ada is. I don't doubt that under different circumstances, my late wife and Ada would have been great friends. I feel incredibly fortunate to have found not just one, but two amazing women who have given and continue to give my life meaning every day. Update. For a couple of months, I had forgotten about this account, but I gave it a look the other day and read again all the beautiful comments and some very touching private messages. Again, thank you all for your interest and kindness. Ada and I are doing well, and we have found a place to move in together. If all goes well, we'll be living together by July. Last month marked the 4th anniversary of my late wife's passing. Ada was with me and held my hand. I was a bit depressed, as I always am on our anniversaries, but Ada made it better. Sometimes I dream about my late wife coming back home, but either she never talks or I never remember what she says. However, when I dreamed of her that night, Ada was there as well, and they met each other. My late wife was very happy about us and told me she's glad Ada is there for me when she can't be. I talked with Ada about the dream, and we agreed it's my brain telling me it's okay to move on. I'll always love, honor, and cherish my late wife, but now there is Ada who is giving me so much and deserves to be happy, to be loved and honored the way she deserves. And I don't intend to disappoint her. As an aside, Ada also said that who knows, it could also be the spirit of my late wife visiting me in the only place she can, my dreams. She says we can see it like that if we take the spiritual approach. Honestly, I wouldn't know. Death is one of those mysteries only those who have passed have discovered, and they can't tell us. We are doing well. We have also managed to plan our first true vacation together, and I was proud to formally introduce Ada as my partner when my company's CEO invited me to dinner with her husband. It's an exciting new journey, and we are thrilled to see where it will lead us. We are a team, and we have a game plan. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.